Okay, good morning. So, Madam Assistant Secretary General and Regional Director for Europe and CIS of UNDP, Minister Đorđević, Minister Pendeš, Ambassador Bjornstad, Ambassador Sherman, Mr. Svilanović, and Ms. Rashkovska, distinguished partners, friends, it's a great honor to welcome you this morning here in Belgrade at this closing event for the closing event for the Strengthening Gender Equality in the Armed Forces Conference. This is a project that we initiated together with our partners from the Ministry of Defense of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, the Republic of Serbia, and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia back in 2012, with extremely generous support from the Kingdom of Norway and the Swedish Armed Forces, and in partnership with a number of organizations that are here today to mark the end of this journey. It is a great pleasure for us to be able to share with all of you today some of the successes of the project, some of the amazing improvements that we have jointly worked to achieve. Therefore, I hope that you will enjoy today's program, that you'll have the opportunity to exchange experiences between the 4 countries that have participated, but also with our guests from the wider region. So, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Cihan Sultanoğlu, our Assistant Secretary General. Please.
Good morning, Excellencies, colleagues, distinguished participants. It's my great pleasure to welcome you today to the closing conference for the gender equality in the military in the Western Balkans project. I would like to start by thanking our host, the Minister of Defense of Serbia, Mr. Đorđević, and Minister of Defense of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Madam Pendeš, for your continuous support to this important initiative. At the same time, I would like to congratulate members of the delegations from all the countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. And it is thanks to your hard work, engagement, innovative approach that we are today celebrating the results achieved in gender equality in your armed forces, in your militaries, and the results that we have registered so far. My appreciation also goes to the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Swedish Armed Forces for funding the initiative. Without your support, the results we are discussing today would certainly not have been possible. Let me also stress the importance of partnerships for the success of this project. In this regard, I would like to thank DCAF, the Nordic Center for Gender in Military Operations, and NATO for partnering with us in the implementation of project activities and for being with us today. In particular, I would like to thank the NATO Secretary General's Special Representative for Women, Peace and Security, Ambassador Marija for attending the conference. She will also deliver the keynote speech, and we are very proud for that. And certainly, I would like to acknowledge the strong cooperation we have with the Regional Cooperation Council, and I would like to thank Mr. Zoran Svilanović, the Secretary General of RCC. We have also present today representatives of the Ministries of Defense and Armed Forces from countries in the region. We have Albania, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Ukraine, and Turkey. I welcome all of you to this event. Regional cooperation, information exchange, and knowledge sharing is a driving force for making development happen, making development progress. We are looking forward to exchanges on gender mainstreaming, gender equality with everyone here. All of you have experiences and a lot to contribute. UNDP is assisting countries to strengthen peaceful societies and democratic governance and help institutions to deliver benefits to all the citizens, whether it is in terms of better services, improved access to resources, or greater security and prosperity. Peaceful and inclusive societies are essential to sustainable development. Access to justice and accountable and inclusive institutions are at the heart of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by heads of states and government last year at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Sustainable Development Goal 16, this happens to be my favorite, on peaceful, just and inclusive societies embodies this. There is no sustainable development without effective, accountable, and transparent institutions at all levels, and without responsive, inclusive, and participatory representative decision-making at all levels. For armed forces, militaries to be able to recognize and to effectively respond to the different security needs and perspectives of women and men, security sector institutions need to become more representative of the society which they serve. Since 2012, UNDP, through SEESAC, has worked closely with the Ministries of Defense of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, to advance gender equality in the military. The project fostered regional cooperation that enabled networking, information sharing, and knowledge exchange on mainstreaming a gender perspective in the military. Regional cooperation enabled learning from experiences of everybody in the region, as well as formulation of context-specific solutions to standardization of approaches. Advancement of gender equality in the military is essential for successful implementation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, and subsequent resolutions on the same topic. Specifically, the increase of participation of women in the prevention of conflict, peace building, and peacekeeping, which Resolution 1325 calls for, will not be achieved without an increase of representation of women in security sector institutions, the police and the military as a key precondition. For gender equality to be successfully integrated in all areas of peace building, it's essential that gender awareness and knowledge on how to integrate a gender perspective is increased in all security sector institutions. Today, we know that while progress has been made, globally, security sector institutions still need to become more gender sensitive and gender responsive. This project has supported the strengthening of gender equality mechanisms in the Ministries of Defense and Armed Forces through the provision of technical advice and regular regional meetings where progress and challenges were discussed and practical solutions formulated. As part of this process, the gender equality mechanisms collected baseline data of the position of women in the armed forces, which resulted in a unique study that represents statistical data and different aspects of the integration of a gender perspective in human resources management, training, and education. Practical recommendations were formulated based on the findings of the study and implemented as part of the project framework. In addition, a regional network of 33 gender trainers was established and provided with continuous support. In the last 2 years, you all know these, but I think it's good to cite our successes. These gender trainers organized briefings and seminars on gender equality for over 1,400 officers, for over 4,000 officers, non-commissioned officers, soldiers, and civilians. As a result, officers and soldiers are becoming more aware that tasks should not be assigned based on sex, but rather on capacities, and that better use of human resources is achieved if gender stereotypes are eliminated from decision-making. Women in the military do not ask to be treated differently from men, not that less is expected from women themselves. The project also generated a lot of expertise in the beneficiary countries. This expertise provides a unique resource launched recently by UNDP. This is now available through the Regional Security Sector Reform Platform with a roster of experts. The platform creates an opportunity for Southeast European states to become stronger contributors to global security with expertise at the technical level. Through this platform of expertise, gender trainers are already supporting courses in Georgia, the United Kingdom, and Croatia. While we celebrate today the successes of this project, let me conclude by noting that the Ministries of Defense, jointly with UNDP SEESAC, have developed a concept for the next phase of the project to build on the results achieved, ensure sustainability of those results are also achieved, and certainly take into consideration lessons learned and address the remaining challenges. We stand ready to continue supporting the process of increasing gender equality in the military, in the Western Balkans, and beyond. I thank you very much for your attention and look forward to a wonderful discussion on the topic today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Sultanoğlu, for these kind words. Now, I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Zoran Đorđević, the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Serbia, one of the 4 partner institutions in this project. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Dear Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to open today's conference dedicated to realization of the important project, support of gender mainstreaming in security sector reform in the Western Balkans. I kindly thank the conference organizer, to Office of UNDP SEESAC representatives of the Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, Serbia, and Montenegro for today's regathering in Belgrade. I welcome you all on behalf of the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Serbia and on my own part. We are here today to summarize the results of challenges as well as the efforts we have to integrate the principle of gender equality in defense system reform of our countries. During these 5.5 years of time, we have, by joining forces, done some great work. We have contributed to greater efficiency of security sector in Western Balkans. I wish to emphasize that this project was a unique and highly successful example of regional cooperation. Through the participation of joint activities and exchange of knowledge and experience in the field of gender equality, we have also had the chance to further develop our good neighborly and friendly relations. I am pleased to note that we have fulfilled all project goals. In the end, I would like to thank the Office of the UNDP SEESAC for the long-standing, constructive and extremely fair cooperation in the realization of this project, and to all those who participate in the project, showing their motivation in their willingness to change, accept the positive achievements and the modern era and implementing policy of the equal opportunities. I take this opportunity to inform that the Republic of Serbia completed the public consultation, the process of the content of the new National Action Plan created by working group of the government and will be implementing for 2016 to 2012. The Ministry of Defense and Serbian Armed Forces adopt the concept of gender equality as one of their strategic commitments and will be continue with concerted measures and decrease the representations of women in their equal participations in Serbian Armed Forces. Here I will finish my addressing and I will leave you to your work. I wish you successful continuation of the work in today's conference, and I wish you all guests to a broad, pleasant stay in Belgrade. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister Đorđević, both for these kind words, but also for a great partnership that we had with you and your staff of the last several years. It is now a great honor to give the floor to another very important partner of ours since the beginning of the project, Her Excellency, Madam Marina Pendeš, Minister of Defense of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Uvaženi gospodine ministre obrane Republike Srbije, gospođo Sultanoğlu, uvaženi predstavnici ministarstava obrane regiona, dragi domaćini i organizatori ove jako bitne konferencije, zadovoljstvo mi je što sudjelujem na otvaranju završne konferencije projekta jačanje regionalne suradnje u oblasti uvođenja rodne perspektive u reformu sektora sigurnosti na Zapadnom Balkanu. Želim izraziti posebnu zahvalnost UNDP-u SEESAC na svesrdnoj potpori i pomoći koju pruža ministarstvima obrane u svim oblastima rada, a posebno mi je zadovoljstvo što se ta potpora proširila i na afirmaciju rodne ravnopravnosti. Ovdje mi dopustite da pozdravim svoju kolegicu, Tanju Miščević, koja je od 2011. godine zajedno sa mnom kao zamjenicom ministra bila uključena u ovaj projekat. Uvođenje principa jednakosti i ravnopravnosti spolova u sve oblasti društvenog života i rada predstavlja ispunjenje jednog od temeljnih standarda ostvarivanja ljudskih prava i sloboda. Inkorporiranje spomenutih principa jednakosti i ravnopravnosti spolova u pravne, institucionalne i političke okvire u Bosni i Hercegovini obaveza je koja proizilazi iz međunarodnih dokumenata, članstva u međunarodnim savezima i tijelima koje je Bosna i Hercegovina prihvatila. Proces integracije rodne ravnopravnosti u oružanim snagama Bosne i Hercegovine se provodi temeljem akcionog plana za implementaciju UN rezolucije 1325. Ja moram ovdje naglasiti da je Bosna i Hercegovina još 2010. godine donijela akcioni plan. U nadzoru tog akcionog plana sudjeluju predstavnici Ministarstva obrane i oružanih snaga i dvojica od tih predstavnika, tajnik ministarstva i pomoćnik za personal, će se danas tokom ove današnje konferencije i vama imati priliku obratiti. NATO partnerski cilj Bosne i Hercegovine je perspektivna rodna ravnopravnost, politike i praksa Ministarstva obrane i oružanih snaga, promoviranje poziva na kampanja znači koju smo dali na topik rodna ravnopravnost u okviru oružanih snaga je jako bitna, mreža kontakt osoba. Ciljevi definirani u projektu potpora integracije načela rodne ravnopravnosti u reformu sektora sigurnosti zemalja Zapadnog Balkana, pokrenuta 2012. godine, inicirali su aktivnosti koje su doprinijele procesu efikasnije integracije rodne ravnopravnosti u okviru oružanih snaga Bosne i Hercegovine. Projekat je pružio potporu ministarstvima obrane u jačanju kapaciteta mehanizma za rodnu ravnopravnost, unapređenje uvjeta za efikasnije privlačenje, zapošljavanje i zadržavanje žena, što podrazumijeva senzitivniji pripadnik i pripadnice oružanih snaga postaju, kad govorimo o procesu rodne ravnopravnosti, reviziju kadrovskih politika i procedura te potporu napredovanja žena u vojnoj službi. Iako sve ovo radimo u Ministarstvu obrane Bosne i Hercegovine, naravno mi nismo s tim u potpunosti zadovoljni jer znamo da možemo bolje i više. Istovremeno, zahvaljujući regionalnom pristupu, ostvarena je suradnja, razmjena znanja i informacija, što doprinosi jačanju suradnje, povjerenja i većoj sigurnosti u okviru Zapadnog Balkana ili jugoistočne Europe. Uključivanjem tema koje se odnose na ravnopravnost spolova u sve aspekte obuke za pripadnice i pripadnike oružanih snaga Bosne i Hercegovine, organiziranjem obuka s ciljem jačanja pozicije imenovanih osoba za rodna pitanja u oružanim snagama Bosne i Hercegovine, kao i uključivanje tema iz UN rezolucije 1325, srodnih rezolucija o položaju i ulozi žene u sukobima i postkonfliktnim situacijama, nasilju nad ženama i djecom, teži se razvijanju svijesti o važnosti sudjelovanja žena u donošenju odluka i postizanju mira i sigurnosti. Uz ostale partnere, ali i suradnike, zahvaljujući i ovome projektu u okviru kojeg su obučeni treneri za rodnu ravnopravnost, tečaj centra našeg na Butmiru, Centra za mirovne operacije, Utility of Gender in PCO, je akreditiran od strane NATO-a i sastavni je dio ponude našeg Centra za mirovne operacije. U Ministarstvu obrane Bosne i Hercegovine su stvoreni uvjeti za unapređenje međusobne suradnje i umrežavanje žena u sektoru obrane i sigurnosti u cilju daljnjeg umrežavanja, unapređenja regionalne suradnje, razmjene iskustava i pozitivnih primjera. Podaci o sudjelovanju pripadnica i pripadnika oružanih snaga na različitim edukacijama pokazuju da je primjetno povećanje sudjelovanje pripadnica oružanih snaga Bosne i Hercegovine na edukacijama, kao i da je učinjen pomak i otklanjena barijera za sudjelovanje žena na tečajevima. Jedan od rezultata projekta na kome bi se posebno zahvalila UNDP i SEESAC u stvari su dva projekta koji su pomogli jačanju uloge ženi kad govorimo o oružanim snagama Bosne i Hercegovine. To je projekat u vojarni Zajmi Mamović u Pazariću, kao i projekat u vojarni Rajlovac. To su dva projekta, ja se nadam da će tajnik ministarstva malo se više osvrnuti tokom današnje njegovog izlaganja oko ta dva projekta. Uvođenje rodno-senzitivne politike u sustav promocije i regrutiranja za vojni poziv, ali i njeno učinkovito provođenje, rezultiralo je boljom informiranošću građanki i građana o vojnom pozivu, ali je to povećalo zainteresiranost žena da se prijave u oružane snage Bosne i Hercegovine. Preporuka Ministarstva obrane Bosne i Hercegovine je da se prilikom svakog prijema od ukupnog broja primljenih kandidatkinja primi 10% žena, ali se uvijek vodi računa da kvalitet bude iznad svega. Ministarstvo obrane Bosne i Hercegovine i oružane snage Bosne i Hercegovine kao vodeći faktor u obrambenim reformama u Bosni i Hercegovini će nastaviti provoditi obrambene reforme. U okviru istih nastojat ćemo da još više pažnje posvetimo pitanju aktivne uloge žene, pripadnice Ministarstva obrane i oružanih snaga Bosne i Hercegovine, kao i na analizi rodnih pitanja, podizanju svijesti i promoviranju rodne ravnopravnosti u Ministarstvu obrane i oružanim snagama Bosne i Hercegovine. No, rodna ravnopravnost bez razvijanja svijesti o važnosti sudjelovanja žena na pozicijama gdje se donose odluke ne može biti prepoznata. Osnaživanje uloge žene u svim sferama društva smatram da je jako bitan cilj. Tu ulogu na sebe trebaju uzeti političke stranke. I ja sam kao predstavnica jedne političke stranke se zalažem i uvijek ću se zalagati za jačanje uloge žene. Jer ukoliko političke stranke ne prepoznaju ženu kao osobu koja može biti postavljena na poziciju gdje se donose odluke, mi možemo imati 1000 konferencija o ravnopravnosti spolova, o osnaživanju žena ako tu nema političke potpore. Zbog toga je jako bitno da u svakom parlamentu ili općinskom vijeću, bar kad govorimo o Bosni i Hercegovini, bude najmanje 20% žena, iako kad govorimo o situaciji u Bosni i Hercegovini. UN rezolucija, akcioni plan, zakon izborni je definirao 40% žena na svim listama, ali se to ne dešava. Zbog toga i zato ja očekujem, evo, i tražim potporu od UN-a, UNDP-a, da u sljedećoj godini ili eventualno u 2018. godini Bosna i Hercegovina bude domaćin jedne konferencije koja bi mogla nositi naziv Uloga žene u prevenciji konflikta ili prevenciji narastajućeg ekstremizma. Obzirom da smo na području koje ima dovoljno, nažalost, iskustva, mi svoje iskustvo možemo podijeliti sa drugima. Bosna i Hercegovina, Republika Srbija, Makedonija, Albanija, Hrvatska sudjeluju u mirovnim misijama diljem svijeta. U okviru UN-a sudjelujemo Bosna i Hercegovina u misiju Maliju i Kongu. Zašto ne bismo imali jednu konferenciju gdje bismo pozvali žene koje su na pozicijama u tim državama da s nama podijeli iskustva kako vide ulogu naših pripadnika oružanih snaga u mirovnim misijama, jer i mi smo imali nekad, bili smo domaćini tih istih mirovnih operacija. Naučene lekcije su nešto što je neponovljivo i što se ne može platiti. I u tom smislu očekujem da evo će Bosna i Hercegovina, ja sam spremna da u proračunu Ministarstva obrane, a i gospođa vice president ili bolje rečeno gospođa Borjana Krišto, koja je predsjednica parlamenta, ministrica za ljudska prava i izbjeglice u Bosni i Hercegovini, gospođa Semiha Borovac, isto jedna žena koja je u vijeću ministara, mi smo uvjerene da možemo osigurati značajna sredstva za organiziranje ovakve konferencije, ali ipak nam je jako bitna uloga UN-a, UNDP-a u organiziranju ovoga, ali naravno i financijska potpora. Još jednom hvala vam na gostoprimstvu, gospodine ministre, a vama na organizaciji.
Minister Pendeš, thank you very much, both for this keynote, but also for all the support and the great work that we have together. And I think we have done really a lot, and I think we'll look forward to working more in the future. Now, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Marija Rashkovska, State Advisor in the Ministry of Defense of the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, representatives of UNDP, NATO, NCGM, DKEF, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and pleasure to talk about the achieved results of the Ministry of Defense of Republic of Macedonia and the Army of the Republic of Macedonia within the framework of the project for strengthening of regional cooperation of gender mainstreaming in security sector reform in the Western Balkans, more specifically, the gender equality in the military. This conference is yet another reminder for all of us that we still need to work on promoting equal opportunities for women and men and establishing conditions for equal participation in all spheres of social life. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Macedonia, as an active international actor, advocates the implementation of the gender perspective in its foreign policy, as well as in its national security and defense policy, by strengthening the role of women and achieving gender equality. Gender equality is one of the fundamental values of the constitutional order of the Republic of Macedonia, based on full recognition and promotion of equal opportunities for women and men, as an indispensable precondition for sustainable development, entitlement to human rights, and exercise of democratic values. In this context, in order to fulfill the principles of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, we adopted a gender equality strategy for introduction of gender-sensitive budgeting, and a national action plan for implementation of the resolution, which was approved by the government of the Republic of Macedonia in January 2013. The preparation of the second National Action Plan for the implementation of the Resolution 1325 for the period 2016-2020 is underway. The Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Macedonia has undertaken a series of activities to establish an effective and efficient system for achieving gender equality and gender perspective in the defense, including a gender perspective in the defense policy in order to create conditions for equal opportunities for women and men in performing their duties and implement the guidelines of the United Nations Security Council resolution. Ladies and gentlemen, within the frameworks of the project Strengthening of Regional Cooperation on Gender Mainstreaming in Security Sector Reform in Western Balkans, the Ministry of Defense and the Army of the Republic of Macedonia have achieved great results in the field of gender equality. Moreover, I would also like to underline that the results achieved in mainstreaming the gender perspective cannot be attributed to the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Macedonia alone. They result from the joint efforts of the UNDP SEESAC and the Ministries of Defense of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, Montenegro and Serbia, and are a unique example of regional cooperation of this kind. The common goal of this project is to integrate the issues of gender equality in the process of reform of the security sector, and thus to contribute to achieving greater efficiency of the security sector in the Western Balkans. In that respect, the project envisages the preparation of a study on the position of women in the armed forces in the Western Balkans, organization of regional meetings on the gender equality mechanisms, as well as study visits to various countries, organized courses of gender trainers, regional meetings of the gender trainers, workshops, seminars, and courses for professional development. As a result of all these activities implemented within the project, we exchanged knowledge, experience, and information to contribute not only to building confidence and improving security in the region, but also to promoting gender equality in the defense system. I am pleased to underline that the project gave overwhelming support to the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Macedonia in the integration of the gender perspective in the strategic documents of the Ministry of Defense. We have established a pool of gender trainers, 14 of them, who conducted gender training with 1,822 members of the Ministry of Defense and the Army of the Republic of Macedonia. Gender training is carried out with all members of the Army of the Republic of Macedonia deployed in the peace missions Resolute Support in Afghanistan, Altea in Bosnia and Herzegovina, UNIFIL in Lebanon, they are part of the pre-deployment training and an ongoing task. To date, over 130 female participants, representatives, women, of the Army of the Republic of Macedonia have participated in international missions. The project also contributed to strengthening the institutional mechanisms for gender equality, promotion of policies and practices in the personal management from the aspect of the gender dimension in the attracting and recruiting process, career development, education and training, raising gender awareness, and the internal mechanisms for gender discrimination and development to the gender structure. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm pleased to emphasize that the invested efforts have yielded impressive results in terms of the status of women in the armed forces and their participation in the decision-making process. However, we should be not content with the achieved results to date. In the contrary, they should serve as an impetus for advancing our efforts. In circumstances where it is necessary to handle the new challenges brought by the contemporary development together, I would like to stress that the involvement of women is a very important component of comprehensive approach to the security challenges of the 21st century. As any other area, gender equality requires great dedication at home, at national level, as well as a strengthened regional cooperation between countries, between institutions, international organizations, NGOs, and experts. We all have a common goal: greater security and stability, a better life and welfare of the citizens, and what is very important, overcoming barriers based on prejudice and preventing discrimination based on gender or any other affiliation. At the end of my speech, allow me to express my gratitude to the Ministers of Defense of Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro for the successful cooperation in the project, and at the same time encourage them to continue the cooperation in the period that lies ahead. Moreover, I would like to express gratitude to the Southeastern and Eastern Europe Clearing House for the control of small arms and light weapons, SEESAC, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway, the Armed Forces of the Kingdom of Sweden, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, for their overall support in the course of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Rashkovska. So before giving the floor to the next speaker, I would just like to announce that, unfortunately, Assistant Secretary General Sultanoğlu will have to leave us now. She is meeting the Prime Minister of the Republic of Serbia. And I would like to thank her once again for having joined us and opened this conference and for all her support. Now, none of this would be possible without our partners at the Regional Cooperation Council. SEESAC, which implements this project, is a joint initiative of the United Nations Development Programme and the RCC, and therefore it's a great pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Goran Svilanović, Secretary General. Svilanović.
Cihan, enjoy the meeting. Excellencies, Mr. Minister, Madam Minister, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, it is indeed an honor and a great pleasure to address you today and together with you rejoice at the results achieved through the gender equality in the military in the Western Balkans project. This project, led by SEESAC, successfully brought together 4 ministries of defense around the gender equality agenda. This issue is relevant not only because of international commitments of states, but because the governments of the region increasingly understand that they've shown in the implementation process that utilizing the full potential of both genders enhances progress and development. As the military has traditionally been a male profession, efforts need to be continuously made to recruit and include women among the candidates and thus increase the chance of getting the best person for the job, as Cihan has just said in her introductory remarks. The gender equality in the military project is an excellent example of results achieved and progress made thanks to a regional approach. Regional cooperation enables information sharing, knowledge exchange, development of joint solutions to existing challenges, as well as standardization of approaches. As a result, we now have stronger gender equality mechanisms, more gender-responsive human resource policies, and increased gender awareness in the military. And I'd like to pay respect to congratulate both to SEESAC as well as to the 4 Ministries of Defense. All of this contributes to a better integration, retention, and professional development for women in the armed forces, and a gender-sensitive change in the organizational culture. We in the RCC have strongly supported this project, as it fits very well with RCC's endeavor to promote gender mainstreaming in all of its activities. Regional cooperation among security sector institutions in an ever-evolving environment is a precondition for stability and prosperity, while effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels are necessary for sustainable development. In this context, RCC, as the operational arm of the Southeast European cooperation process, assumed the key role to coordinate projects of a wider regional character and create appropriate political climate for their implementation. SEESAC, as a joint initiative of UNDP and the RCC, has successfully facilitated regional security sector reform related processes since its establishment in 2002. While initially focusing exclusively on small arms and light weapons control, it has widened the scope of its activities, so it provided support to the Southeast Europe Police Chiefs Association in establishing the Women Police Officers Network in Southeast Europe, which strives to mainstream the gender perspective in policing. As a result of this work, Ministries of Defense requested assistance in integrating the gender perspective in the military. SEESAC, on the UNDP's and RC's framework, has thus grown into one of the leading regional initiatives providing support to the governments in the region in advancing gender equality in security sector. Let me say at the very end that security cooperation area will be an important part of RCC strategy and work program for 2017-2019, which was adopted only weeks back by the RCC board and endorsed by the SCCP summit. We will continue with the traditional activities of networking, cooperating, and bringing together all governments from the region and relevant international and regional organizations and initiatives active in the field. We will also continue leading, supporting, co-chairing, and co-organizing 2 specialized regional security cooperation fora, namely CIMIC, Southeast Europe Military Intelligence Chiefs Forum, as well as SENSA, Southeast Europe National Security Authorities. At the same time, important efforts will be devoted to the implementation of the regional cooperation platform on countering violent extremism leading to terrorism and foreign terrorist fighters. Before concluding, let me say, what does this mean in real life? While doing, we are also learning. And now I refer at the Regional Cooperation Council. And I'd like to point out 2 things we've recently done. First, we've learned something, and therefore I've instructed colleagues of mine dealing with documents, with the personnel policies, to embed a sentence clearly saying the RCC will not financially support any event which is not gender mainstream in future. And the RCC Secretary General will not attend panels unless balanced when it comes to the gender composition. This is much we can do, all of us. It doesn't take big money, but just a decision, this is what we want to do. And second, I've just mentioned we have adopted a new 3 years work program. And it was endorsed by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and the heads of states. And in October, at the first meeting of the board we are going to have, again, we will have another document which is devoted as an annex only to the mainstreaming, gender mainstreaming of the 3 years work program, because we've learned we need to do it. So this is what these big sentences, the big speeches mean in real life. Once again, I'd like to express gratitude to the hospitality of the government of Serbia and the Ministry of Defense, as well as to the organizers, SEESAC and UNDP. Thank you very much.
Secretary General, thank you very much for all the support, both on this project and the other projects that we're implementing together with your organization. And we hope to continue this for a long time. And now, well, we heard a lot about some of the achievements, at least in broad terms, of this project. None of this would have been possible without the extremely generous support of the Kingdom of Norway. And therefore, it's a great pleasure for me to give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Arne Sandnes Bjørnstad, Ambassador of Norway to the Republic of Serbia.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, officers, ladies and gentlemen. I stand here as a representative of a very proud donor, and let me begin also to say that I want to both say thank you and congratulate everyone for making this a success, because this is a really success story, this project. Equal rights for everyone, regardless of gender, regardless of origin, is one of the fundamentals for any democracy worthy of its name and for economic growth. That is why gender equality and mainstreaming is part of practically all our foreign policy programs. But we really show that we're serious in this, what we're doing actually at home in Norway, because it's also actually part of all the domestic policies. And just to keep to the armed forces, since that's the subject today, Norwegian armed forces were among the first in the world to allow women in all positions. We have female fighter pilots, female submarine commanders. We had the first female contingent commander in the ISAF operations in Afghanistan. And since 1914, the Norwegian Major General and Lady Kristin Lund has been the commander of the UN Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus. And from 2014 as well, we have conscription for all. This was previously only for men, but now all women and men born in 1997 later is called in for testing, and the first group will start their service, the mandatory service, this summer. We're not doing this only for the army, as I said. You know, pluralism is good for society. It's good for public administration, and it's good for the armed services as well. It's in the interest for all. It's not only for the women. It's not for and by women. It's for all of us. Because without women, if we exclude them, or any other group in society for that matter, decision-making is getting poorer. We lose important elements, and other elements are not given sufficient weight. But perhaps the most important in this is that we get a better pool, a larger pool to choose from. The more potential candidates we have, the better chance we're having of getting the right person to the job. This is valid for managers, it's valid for senior officers in the army, but it's also valid for combat pilots and for special forces members. They should be selected on what they can bring to the team, not who they are, or what they are. The Norwegian Special Forces, they build team by putting together highly skilled soldiers. And I think without exaggerating that they are among the best in the world. And it was at the request of the Special Operations Force that we launched a program 2 years ago to train more women for position in the Special Forces. They actually wanted it because they saw the advantage of having more women in the force. The physical requirements, they are slightly different. But the overall quality as soldiers, although selected, are considered such that these small differences doesn't matter. They're more than compensated by other qualities. And in a sense, you can say that this adaptation to differences is both promoting gender equality and improving the services of our special forces. But I think it's valid for all parts of society. This project we're here to celebrate today, has brought together the Ministry of Defense and the armed forces in the region. It shows that regional cooperation is not only possible, but it gives value to all, and it can be a success. It is a success. The trainers, they have not only worked to increase awareness here in the Western Balkans, but as has already been said, they have been actually used to train trainers in Georgia, the UK, and Croatia as well. This just shows how far the personnel from this region has come, and it shows the worth, the value of working together, and the potential you have on the Western Balkans for cooperation. So I hope that this project is the beginning of something, not the end of something, and it will actually reach into other domains as well. But I'm very pleased to see this success, and I just want to wish you all good luck with continuing your work, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Ambassador, allow me to thank Norway once again for the very generous support to this project, and I hope that you will see also today that we have really done our best to achieve actually some transformative change here. And now it's a great honor to give the floor to our keynote speaker for today, from an institution that we have sought very much to partner with, because they represent in many ways some of the goals that we're all trying to achieve, some of the models that we're trying to emulate, but also that I feel that while we have learned a lot from, they have also learned some from our partner institutions here. So without further ado, Her Excellency, Ambassador Marija Čurman, NATO Secretary General's Special Representative for Women, Peace and Security. The floor is yours, madam.
That's a good start. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's a real honor to be here. The honor is entirely on my side at this closing conference in a region that I know rather well and is very close to my heart, so it feels like being home. And I'm very happy here to share some of these common lessons and common challenges that we have in promoting gender equality in the military and in the security sector. And it's rather difficult after all the eminent speakers before, who basically already said it all, and why this is so important and fundamental. So I see my what's called a keynote speech. It's more like a footnote to the previous speakers, and I hope a stepping stone to the three panels that will follow on increasing gender awareness, on gender mainstreaming, and enabling human resource policies. And when I was thinking through, I think, how to capture this common challenge that we have, I think I can capture it in one phrase that I learned from the Japanese coordinator of the Japanese National Action Plan on 1325. And she said, my main challenge is, how do I convince my so-what colleagues? And I think for those of you who have actively participated in this project over the past 4 years, that is your main challenge. So we have, and it's definitely my main challenge, and I'll come back to that. This is so formally the closing conference, but as we know, with the closing conference, it actually means that the work only starts now. Policies have been made, instruments have been developed, but what we have to do now is to implement them and to make a real and tangible difference in real life in the security sector and in the military. We have to sustain all those lessons and make sure that gender mainstreaming is not away streaming, as happened in the past. And we have, I think that is, the only thing to convince our so-what colleagues. We have to demonstrate the relevance of Resolution 1325, the relevance of gender equality in the military in day-to-day work and day-to-day life. And the end goal that I would formulate it is that gender equality also in the military has to be the new normal. We have to move from the first evers, and the Norwegian ambassador referred to some of those first evers, the first UN commander, Norwegian General Lund, In NATO, we're very proud that last week we welcome basically the new first ever 4-star female Joint Force Commander took over the command of Joint Force Command Naples. But we have to move from those first evers to the new normal. It should be normal to have men and women equally participating in matters of peace and security. So this is our common challenge. How do we convince the so what colleagues, and how do we sustain what has been achieved and make sure and demonstrate in practice that it is relevant, that gender matters and that gender equality matters? That is my job, and I think it's also the challenge that many of you will face after today. And I would like to share my take with you on these 3 things. Why that matters, how we within NATO, within the alliance, have tried to do that, and what are the challenges ahead, what's next. And in very short, I always like to give 3 takeaways so that you can doze off in the remaining 10 minutes. My 3 takeaways, my 3 takes on this is, why does it matter? It's because gender equality is not about women's issues, but it's about effectiveness and excellence. How do we achieve that? And that is try to keep it simple, keep it practical, and start at home. And what is the basic challenge that we face is that we have to move from what we call institutionalizing the gender agenda to internalizing women, peace and security and gender equality, and adapt it to today's world and today's security challenges to demonstrate again in practice the relevance for today's security challenges. So that is a very short summary of what I want to go through briefly with you now. So to start with the why gender matters and why gender equality is fundamental. That is, as I said, gender is not an issue, it's a perspective, as we learned in the Nordic Center on Gender and Military Operations. I mean, that line, everybody has to remember that one. Gender is not about women. Gender is about effectiveness and excellence. It is, as I say, in NATO terms, it is not only about readiness, it's also about resilience. It is not only about our credibility, that we have to lead by example, but it's also about capability to promote gender equality, both in-house and in the areas where we operate. That is because we have to live up to the principles, the fundamental principles of the alliance, the principles of our society on which our very peace and security is based. We have to lead by example and live up to the principles that we're supposed to defend, but also because we have to make sure that we leave no talent untapped, that we use 100% of the potential that our societies have to offer in order to be safe and secure and at peace. So it's a matter of credibility, but also capability. And gender equality is a core capability for us. On the why, I always find there's 2 sets of eye-openers for the military that I engage with, and why this matters to them, how they discovered that mainstreaming gender, applying a gender lens to their day-to-day work, makes a difference and helps them to better deliver on their mandates. The first set of eye-openers is obviously the participation in the operation in Afghanistan, where we learned in practice that it makes a difference if we have enough female peacekeepers who can reach out to the other 50% of the population to better understand what the different security needs and demands are, not only of the men, but also of the women, and how to best respond to those different needs. That it makes a difference if we train female searchers and female election monitors, because without them, women would not have been able to come out and vote in the last elections. And because we trained female searchers and election monitors, we helped Afghanistan to get the highest turnout in history from women voters. It makes a difference when we engage with female leaders in the areas where we operate, so that we hear their voices, and we will also provide a platform and empower them to participate in their full right to finding lasting solutions to the insecurity in their country. So that is one type of eye-openers for a lot of us, and particularly on the military side, it has been Afghanistan. And the second eye-opener, which is a bit less positive, I'm afraid, is misconduct in our own forces. And the realization that misconduct, Sexual harassment, bullying is not an individual problem of the perpetrator and the victim, but a structural, organizational, cultural problem that undermines the cohesion and the effectiveness of our forces. So 2 sets of eye-openers, I think, in the recent years that have demonstrated to the military that promoting gender equality both inside and outside is a matter of effectiveness and a matter of excellence, both organizational, operational, and institutional excellence. And as we say that gender equality and a gender mainstreaming is an enabler and a force multiplier. So it's a matter of effectiveness and a core capability for us. But that's all nice in word, but what do we do in practice? So as I said, the NATO line of operation had always been keep it simple, keep it practical, and start at home, start in-house. Not only because we have to lead by example, but also because we know it will increase our effectiveness. So we do that in 2 tracks, by reducing barriers for equal participation of women in our own structures, both civilian and military, and by mainstreaming gender in day-to-day tasks. And we went far in the 2nd track, gender mainstreaming in day-to-day tasks, in practical tools, in incorporating gender perspectives in conflict analysis, in planning processes, in education, training, and exercises, and by setting up a structure in a strategic way of gender expertise, gender experts that support commanders on delivering on their responsibilities to integrate Resolution 1325 in their day-to-day work. So we went far there. We went less far, as you may have noticed. As I said, we still are in the stage of first evers. We went less far in increasing equal participation of women in the armed forces and in our own structures, also on the civilian side, and particularly decision-making level. And that is one of the things that we committed to work on. But as I said, we went far in institutionalization, what we call, setting up, increasing the expertise, setting up a well-working, functioning structure of gender expertise that serves the organization, and in integrating gender perspectives in regular planning and operational tools. Now I come to the last part of what's next, what's the main challenge. And I normally say that we now have to move from institutionalization to internalization. We have to internalize gender equality so that it really becomes, so that gender equality becomes a core business, so that gender awareness is a core capability, and the ability to mainstream and integrate gender perspective in day-to-day work is a basic tool for every security provider, both civilian and military. So that and at the same time, while we internalize it, we have to adapt it to today's world and today's security challenges, and realize that gender equality is not only relevant when we operate in Afghanistan, but also when it comes to finding lasting, more sustainable and inclusive solutions for today's security threat, which are not far away, but on our borders and within our borders. Gender has to be part of a more comprehensive, holistic response to the security challenges of today, so that we not only fight the symptoms, but find holistic responses to the root causes of today's insecurity. And we all know what that means, that gender is relevant for how we respond to the current refugee crisis, for how we respond to violent extremism, for how we respond to hybrid warfare, and what it means for our strategic communication as part of that holistic response, for how we present ourselves, how we operate, how we demonstrate what we are, what the values are that we defend, but also apply in practice through the way in which we operate. So gender perspective, gender awareness, and gender equality has to be part of a comprehensive response to today's hybrid threats in NATO terms. And that is a very difficult and long-term task and challenge for all of us, to really internalize gender awareness and make it a practical tool, a basic tool, and a normal aspect of professionalism for every security provider. That is a challenge that we face today that we have to work on. That requires a change in mindsets, in how we perceive security and insecurity, and how we respond to that. That requires leadership, top-down, political commitment, but also bottom-up. That is a change process, which is like all change processes and all reform processes, is long, it's hard work, and it will require a lot from your endurance and perseverance. So, in short, summing up, how do I convince, or how do we convince our so what colleagues? That is that we have to demonstrate the effectiveness of applying a gender lens. That we have to keep it practical and design basic tools for day-to-day work that makes sense to the people that have to use it. And that we have to demonstrate in practice the relevance of gender equality to find better, more lasting solutions for today's security threats that threaten us all. And the end goal is, as I said, that gender equality becomes a normalcy, that we promote on the basis of merit, not gender or sex, and that gender awareness is a core capability of every military and every security sector. Because, to quote the NATO Secretary General, because gender equality is not optional but fundamental to find better and smarter solutions for the many security challenges we face today. I wish you a very, very fruitful exchange of experience. I'm very happy to participate in those discussions and to be here with you today. And I congratulate you for the results already achieved. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Sherman, thank you very much for this inspiring speech and for, I think, unbelievably well setting the scene for the panels that are going to follow and the discussion that we're hoping to generate today, and from which we will also see both what has been achieved, but, as you said, the long road ahead. And it was really music to our ears, I think, especially in the team that worked here, and I mean by team, the wider one, the Ministry of Defense that participated. This focus on keeping it practical, which I think you will see from many of the speakers today, we have done for the last 4 years, really, really focused on getting down to, the so what question and convincing people that this is, again, not an option. It's fundamental, and it's what's going to make, this move, the qualitative move, happen. So normally here was a part where we would have liked to present to you the project, but we're not going to, we are going to do that, but in a bit of a different way. We decided we're going to shorten the session. And we struggled a bit on how to do this. So we're now trying to do in a 2.5-minute video 4 years of some very interesting achievements. So I hope you will appreciate that, both the fact that you'll be able to go for the coffee break sooner rather than listening to me present, and the effort was put into the video by some of my colleagues. So please.